Rowan. So while people are joining, we'll start with the Lyft team introductions real quick. And just a good practice while you're on Zoom, most of you know this, but Zoom hygiene is muting yourself while someone else is speaking or when you're not speaking so that we reduce the amount of background noise. So thank you for doing that. We may give you friendly reminders about that if we hear some background noise. And as people are joining, we'll probably hear some background noise. Welcome, everyone. So, starting with some introductions. My name is Erin Axelrod. I'm a Lyft partner and worker owner. And let's see, I'll follow the pattern of 1 minute introduction per person. And my skill is connecting people with shared values and shared alignment. A resource I have is expertise in bioregional regenerative fiber systems and interest and curiosity. And a need I have is other collaborators like yourselves join in this movement, working on creating the next economy. And I will pass it to Sean, co-founder of Lyft Economy and Lyft partner.
Hi everybody, Sean Berry. I'm in the Hudson Valley of New York. So happy to see everybody and also to see some Hudson Valley people here. Let's see, a skill I have right now is putting in hardwood flooring on my new house, and that's a lot of fun. A resource, boundless love for humanity and life. And a need is for us to collaborate and share solutions really quickly. And I'll pass it to Kevin.
Thanks, Sean. I'm Kevin Bayuk, also co-founder of Lyft Economy and worker owner. And a skill that I have, and by the way, my intention for this training is to adapt the learning experience to meet your needs so that it's exactly what you need and wonderful for everybody. Skill I have is pretty mean with spreadsheets and can organize data. A resource that I have, so many resources. I have a vast network of investors and people that I could introduce you to, and I have a car and a projector and a computer, lots of different things. And a need that I have a need for thought partners in how to unlock certain asset classes for carbon farming stuff. I have a lot of ideas, but I need people who really are passionate about that and thinking about it. And I will pass it on to Ryan Honeyman, also with Lyft Economy.
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan. Let's see, intention. I think to better understand the needs of everyone rather than come with a lot of one-way knowledge. So like we're learning too as the teachers or the sort of in this position. So interested in that. Skill is, some of you may know, I am a nerd on B corporations. I wrote a book called the B Corp Handbook. And so I know a lot about B Corps. So if you have any questions about B corporations, I can happily answer it. Resource, again, B Corps. One sort of resource / need is some of our team, we've been examining, what it means to be white in society now. And so like whiteness and anti-racism and the place for white people showing up in this work. So really curious at some point if folks want to have that discussion. I know we've integrated it into our the coursework, but also that's of deep interest to me as well. Let's see, who else has not gone yet, Kevin?
Andrew.
Aaron. Oh, Aaron, Andrew.
Mhm. And Andrew, if you need a minute to join, I can share my screen and see you on there. There you are. Hey, Andrew.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew Baskin.
Yeah, just sharing intention for the course,
Mm-hmm.
a skill you have, a resource you have, and a need you have.
Mm. Thanks, Erin.
And your name and who you are at Lyft, too.
Thanks. So my name is Andrew Baskin, and I am a partner and worker owner at Lyft Economy. An intention that I have for this course is to connect with more folks in the next economy. I'm really excited to get to know all of you over the coming weeks and months. And Erin, it was a resource to share and a request.
A skill you have, and a resource you have, and a need you have.
A skill that I have is, in a past life, I studied audio engineering. So if some of you are familiar with our podcast series, I produce our Next Economy Now podcast series. And a need that I have, aside from hugs, is again, I think I really just need more playmates in the next economy space. More minds and hearts in that space. So I think that's it for me right now.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm gonna just quickly share my screen. Has Phoenix or Jenny joined us yet? I don't think so. I'm just gonna call in a couple other Lyft partners that you will see in the course curriculum as teachers. And that would be Phoenix Soleil. She's actually, I think, gonna try and join us today. She is also a Lyft partner and teaches nonviolent communication, mindfulness. And she's led trainings for Google, Kellogg Foundation, lots of other folks, and has a regular practice in meditation and nonviolent communication. And so she's gonna be really additive to our conversations around communication, culture, anti-oppression, anti-racism, etc. And then one other person you should know about is Jenny Casson, who is, she does business as Lyft Economy Legal, or Lyft Economy Law. And some of you may be familiar with her as an attorney and advisor for helping women, particularly women and people of color, raise capital from non-extractive sources, from mission-aligned investors. But some of you may not know she also co-founded the Sustainable Economies Law Center, which many of you on this call may be familiar with. They're a key ally in this work and key partner. They essentially provide, help people legalize sustainability and create new models for a better world. And then she also co-founded Cutting Edge Capital, which she's no longer with, but she'll be teaching some of the investment aspects. So I'll stop my share there. So we are going to migrate into your introductions. Thank you all for preparing for this. And I am going to be, I'll be timekeeper just to make sure that we have ample time for everyone. And so the invitation is to have a 30-second to a minute share about your intention for the course, a skill you have, a resource you have, and a need as well. And let's see if you can hear this. We'll test it really quick. When you're at a minute, I'll just do a bow.
If I could add, Erin, at any time, just housekeeping, there's a Zoom chat function, and if you have questions, concerns, or if you want to opt out of any invitation, you absolutely have the freedom to do so. So if you don't want to share, that's fine with us. And if you want to type anything into a chat, we can respond in real time.
Kevin, do you want to really quickly go over the agenda after the introductions, what we'll be covering?
Yeah, make sure describe the arc in the morning. We sent out the agenda, I think on Friday. After doing intros, we'll kind of talk about kind of the full arc of the training and our approach to crafting a learning experience and co-creating one and what that might look like for us all. So we have shared expectations. Then we'll dive into the content of getting some shared language around what is the economy, what is it for. We'll have an exercise about envisioning the economy and how it might work, and some assessment of the business as usual or existing economy and what's not working there, why isn't it working, and then we'll go through some extra fun assignments that can continue our learning between this and the next session.
All right, so does anyone want to begin? And once you are finished, one pattern is to pass to someone who has not yet checked in, like the Lyft partners did. If that gets too cumbersome, I can jump in and support, but let's try that pattern and it'll help us all kind of get to know one another best we can on the screen. So does anyone want to start? Free to unmute yourself and let's see. Great, Faith.
I'll start. Hi, I'm Faith Gilbert. I live in the Hudson Valley in Hudson, New York, and my primary occupation is as a vegetable farmer. I run a business with collective farm with 2 business partners. My intention for taking this class is to make a leap out of, not entirely out of the work that I've been doing, but to build upon it and to hopefully gain a strong context for playing a consulting role or a future organizing role outside of the industry that I know, which is agriculture. The resource I have 64 acres and a mostly empty farmhouse, if anyone has a need for that. A skill that I have, I've recently been teaching financial training courses to beginning farmers, so take that as you will. And I had a hard time identifying a need. I feel like I got what I need right now. But one thing I'm specifically thinking about is trying to move my family's wealth out of the stock market. And so I'm looking for resources, for support, and for suggestions of where to begin that conversation, and also good resources to steward it too.
Can you pass to someone?
I'll pass it to Angela, the other person that I know.
Thanks, Faith. Hi, my name is Angela. I also live in the Hudson Valley, and until recently, my primary occupation was also farming. I think my very broad intention for the course is to help me retool as I take a step away from production agriculture and into a new position with an existing co-op, as well as different roles in the community, different organizations and projects that I'm taking on. So a skill that I bring is I can grow some mad cut flowers. I'm happy to share info there. A resource that I have to share, I have a spacious living room with a futon that's available and close to the Metro North for folks that are in the Hudson Valley and need access to the city. And as far as a need, I'm engaging in a couple community projects, and we are both coming up with questions around how to effectively get community input and know the scale of that input, like when is enough, what does the process look like so that it's inclusive, but that it doesn't take 12 to 18 months to be able to move forward on a project. So looking for folks to chat with that. So pass to Erin.
Hi, I'm Erin Domagal, and I am also in the Mid-Hudson Valley in Rosendale. And I am a worker owner of a landscaping company called Earth Designs Cooperative. And so my intention with this course is to integrate this Next Economy values and mission into our organization. And so I'm really looking for, a common language and a community to network with, so that I feel like I'm not doing this by myself, or we feel like we're not doing this by ourselves. A skill that I have is kind of a general ability to see or identify the details that make up the big picture. And a resource that I have is that I'm an herbalist and a gardener, so plants are really my thing. And so I think I kind of integrated my need into my intention, which is really the community context and common language that I'm looking for. And so I'm gonna pass this off to the other person that I know, which is Jolie.
Hi. Can you hear me? Am I doing this right?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay, great. My name is Jolie Herbst. I also am a worker owner of Earth Designs in Rosendale, New York, in the Hudson Valley, along with Erin, and actually now Angela, who I barely met, but looking forward to get to know. My intention for this, quite similarly to Erin, is to gain the vocabulary to start making changes and, learning more about what alternative economies mean and what they have to offer and how they can fit into our current systems. And in order to share with other people, not just talking about problems in our society and our economy and our country, but learning more about plausible alternatives and the future of things. A skill that I have is gardening and landscape design. A resource that I have to offer, I feel, is the strong cooperative community that we have. It's been amazing growing this cooperative and really learning that we can have a group of people from different backgrounds, different families come together and be so strong and supportive of each other. And then, also our larger community here in the Hudson Valley is amazing. And a need that I have is actually to form a larger network of like-minded people in other places who I can learn from and gain more new ideas.
Julie, can you pass it to some other person on the screen? You don't have to know them.
Sure. How about Amelia?
And if you don't get through all the questions too, it's not a problem. You don't have to take the whole minute. So yeah, feel free to just I'll start raising this bowl when it's like you've got 10 seconds left.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Amelia, and I am connecting in from Sonoma County. I actually live in the East Bay in Oakland, but I work up here in Rohnert Park, if anyone's familiar with the area. Lots of East Coasters, though. My intention for this course is, one, to build a community and connect with all of you, and two, to chart my course towards becoming an expert in social sustainability in the business world. I work in international development now, and people have always been my focus. And so social sustainability is really what I have set my sights on, and that's the area that I want to dive into. A skill that I bring, one is facilitation and group work, and another is staying calm in the eye of the storm. I'm a presence of calm if anybody ever needs that. A resource that I want to share is a book that I'm reading right now that's called Debt by David Graeber. And a need that I have is I'm actually starting to look for practical, hands-on, project-based work that I can be applying tools and concepts that we're studying during this course into. So looking for practical experience. And I will pass to Letitia.
Hello. I don't know if I'm heard. I'm so excited that you took a stab at my name. That means so much to me. Thank you. My name is Leticia. I am in Santa Cruz, California. I work at California Certified Organic Farmers, so CCOF, and I am doing research on organic farming there. And the last few years, I've been farming in Northern California and Southern Oregon. So my intention for the course is to try to think through some of the contradictions of living the next economy life while living under the dominant system of neoliberal capitalism, how to make structural change while working within a model and understanding where there's room for kind of reformative change versus transformative change. And a skill I have to share is I'm pretty well versed in understanding, 10 seconds, solutions about capitalism. Really excited to learn, I can understand the problems of capitalism very well. Excited to learn about really concrete solutions. Okay. I will pass it to, how about Charlotte Sullivan?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay. Sorry, I have an echo. Okay, it's better now. So my name is Charlotte. I work at Middlebury College as a social entrepreneurship program associate here in Middlebury, Vermont. And I also have a project called May West, and that those two roles connect with my intention for this course. So I am really interested in using the material of this class to augment my role as a program associate in the subject matter of social entrepreneurism at a very traditional liberal arts college in New England. And in my role as a project manager and co-founder of a potentially, we don't call ourselves a startup, but I guess we are and are thinking about being that. My project with May West involves using milkweed floss as an alternative to feather down as insulation in the form of a jacket. So that's a project I've been working on for 3 years. Skill I have is I'm very organized, and I would say for a resource right now, a really important resource I feel like I have is my connection and employment at Middlebury College. And right now I really need space, like physical space.
Can you pass?
Oh yeah, sorry. Pass to Pamela.
That might be Joshua. Or wait, who is that? Pam, your name
Hopkins?
is maybe your name's different from your actual name.
Joshua is signed in.
Joshua.
Cool.
Hi. I have no idea how that happened. I have no idea who Pamela is. I can be heard? Wonderful. Yeah. Good morning, friends. First off, thank you to the LIFT team. If others aren't like big fans of the LIFT team, I hope you become so I think what y'all are doing is so important in our world today. I'm also part of the East Bay Area crew. My intention is definitely I've historically worked in the nonprofit context, and I'm slowly expanding to include the for-profit context. And so I'm just really looking for a lot of learning and education on that front as I'm in a slow startup process around a for-profit education and training company. I bring a skill and passion around branding and messaging. So if you want feedback on your marketing, I would love to offer that. I bring a resource around governance models like holacracy and sociocracy, and we'll call that good for now. Thank y'all.
Can you pass it?
I will pass it to someone I know named Jay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Jay, also part of the East Bay crew. I live here in Oakland in a community house. My intention with this program is to really just steep in visions and projects of the next economy and to learn in community. I have, as far as a skill, I've mastered the art of the 15-minute power siesta. So if anyone wants to know about that. Let's see, resource. So starting in January with the theme of guest rooms and hosting people, starting in January, we'll have a guest room here in Oakland if anyone wants to come visit next year. And I'll second the need about wanting to know more about investment funds that are available in the next economy realm. I see the bell. I'll pass to, let's see, how about, is it Ojan? Ojan?
That's me, Ojan.
All right.
Hey, everybody. I'm also here in the East Bay. Let's see. I work at a place called the East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative. We're also in our startup phase, getting ready to launch in December. So I'm really excited to be learning these skills that are, about how to run a business, but not just business as usual. So really skilling up is kind of my intention, I guess, broadly speaking. But it just kind of seemed like a no-brainer to take this course. My skills that I bring, I really enjoy playing music, drums and guitar, so that's a skill. My resources, I also live in a community home in the East Bay, and we're a great space if we want to host events or movie showings or that kind of thing. I'm happy to connect with folks. And I really need, I'm finding a need in my life to just be around more people who are creating this common language around the new economy and new possibilities, and just, to have that space. And I need to stretch. So if I'm off camera, I'm just stretching to the side. So I'm here. Okay, I'll pass to Angela D.
She already went.
Oh, my bad. What about Brandon Harrell?
Hey, can you hear me all right? Thumbs up. Cool. Thanks, Ojan. I think I met you at the NorCal Resiliency Network meeting last week. So
yeah, good to see you, man.
Hell yeah. My name is Brandon. I learned about the Next Economy MBA from Kevin Bayuk last year when we did the PDC course at Impact Hub. I'm previously the general manager and interim director of Impact Hub San Francisco. Currently fully immersed in the diversity and inclusion space. In tech, we build diverse and inclusive tech ecosystems, myself and Change Catalyst, and also working with Kevin on some urban permaculture stuff. My intention for the course is just to, in a nutshell, build a plan towards building the underground. So trying to separate from capitalism entirely with my family, local leaders, and just developing plans to that end. Resource that I have a lot of knowledge of environmental and urban planning. So folks have urban planning just questions, interests, feel free to reach out. I think I mentioned this the last time I was asked, but archery, like, love archery. So if anyone has ever been interested in getting their Legolas on, holla at your boy. A need I have is just to meet more like-minded radical folks. I feel like I'm constantly like the furthest left-leaning of all of my friends, and I'm tired of being alone on that end. So yeah, the more left, the better. That's it.
So maybe I'll pass it to someone who hasn't gone, Shira.
Sorry, I'm on a cell phone, so it's like I had to go all the way back. And I'm going to try to turn on my video for 1 second. Yes, I'm at work in San Francisco. I live in Oakland. My goals are really I'm trying to learn more about this new economy and mainly my role in it. So in terms of skills, I have a very sort of wide background. I'm an attorney, but I'm also a filmmaker. And so part of like the resources I bring are that I would say, first and foremost, out of the box analysis. So usually how I see something, I do a heck of a lot of research. And if you ever need anything researched, I'm totally dogged about it. So I usually find all sorts of crazy stuff. And then how I sort of piece that information together generally is not how other people do, but I think I am a little bit more deep in my analysis, or I should say, past surface. And things like editing, marketing, and messaging and stuff like that. And finally, in terms of a need, that's quite difficult in the sense of I'm still trying to figure out, again, my place. And so if I have a need, I'm really good at expressing it. I just don't have anything to express at the moment. Thanks. I appreciate being here.
I'm going to pass to David.
Hello, all. My name is David Jaber. You can usually find me in Berkeley or Oakland, California, and today it looks like you can find me in the same building as Brandon. I have my own firm in Native, as well as I'm part owner in a B corporation called Blue Star Integrative Studio. So we do planning, architecture, green building related work. My work tends to revolve around data and solutions to climate change. So whether that's working with companies to help them set science-based targets, doing greenhouse gas accounting, quantifying life cycle benefits, it all revolves around helping organizations understand their environmental impacts and how to improve. So my intention was I'm going to support the Next Economy movement. As part, I kind of see this as an investment in Lyft, who I appreciate and I know does great work. I'm also hoping to refine how I describe my services as one part of this work. I know the language I used was good 10 and maybe 5 years ago, but things have evolved. A skill I can offer is, I'll go with greenhouse gas accounting, but just kind of breaking down a supply chain, characterizing greenhouse gas sources, and evaluating how improvements map up with goals. A resource, solid connections in the Native American community for entrepreneurs. There's a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurs and need better understanding of the investment community, like others said, and who's interested in investing in both the B corporations and as well as affordable housing. Thank you.
And
Aaron, do you want to pass?
Yeah, I'll pass.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Rose. I am a farmer in Sonoma County up in Sebastopol. Stoked to be with you today. Thank you, Aaron, for helping make this happen for me. I am creating a new farm business, and my intention through this course is to find a way to integrate my business and my values. A skill is I have a business degree, so I have those skills, and I also have advanced skills in a lot of different types of sustainable ag. Resources, I have a strong community of producers in California that I'm close with, and also in New York and around the world. My need, I guess, is I really learn from stories, like case studies. And I think it would be really helpful for me to hear more stories and business models that kind of reflect the new economy. And that would really help me shape mine and understand more of what's possible. Because I just get the feeling in general that a lot more is possible than I've been educated and led to believe. So yeah, I'm really interested in hearing more stories. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Everyone. My name is Melissa, and I am a former farmer, so it's really cool to see all you folks in ag out there. I'm currently a senior outreach coordinator with Grid Alternatives, and some of you may have heard of us. We're a nonprofit solar installer, installing solar for disadvantaged communities. But my dream is to have an ocean farm. I'm super stoked on seaweed right now. And my intention is to build something aligned with my values that's a powerfully positive force both in my community and in the local ecosystem. And that's also a roadmap for others to get out of sort of the wheel of destruction that is the status quo. A skill I have is self-care. A resource is my personal network, and I also have space here in Paso Robles if you ever want to come visit. I'm in co-housing. And a need I have is nuts and bolts knowledge of all sorts of things, from just basics of business to how to identify local seaweeds.
Rebecca?
Hi there. Can you hear me? Yeah, great. All right. My name is Rebecca Pepe, and I'm up in Seattle. And I work for a small organic farm and culinary business, not doing farming or really the culinary. I do everything else. And then I also run my grandmother's family foundation and teach yoga. So I do a lot of different things. My intention for the course is to expand and adapt my systems design and sustainable food systems master's background to the business world. A skill that I bring is mindfulness and breath work. I teach that. And then I have a couple of resources that I'll put in the chat to share, one around white culture, white supremacy culture, and some things that go along with that. I've been studying that in the context of yoga, and then permaculture principles in the context of more social aspects. And then a need that I have is to understand and speak more of a business language, potentially for a startup. Thanks.
Thank you. And we'll go with Melanie. Sorry, did I say that right? Melanie, you're muted. There you are.
Can you hear me now? Great. My name is Melanie. I am currently in a coffee shop in rural South Georgia, so sorry if my connection is bad. I'm taking the MBA with my partner, Nikki, who is actually at the RSF Social Finance thing this week, so she's not able to join, so I will just be speaking for myself. I think one of our intents is, we're getting some help already as a Lyft investee on our business plan, but one of the things we want to do is kind of bring the new economy work to Atlanta. Like, we don't have a lot of stuff happening there right now. We have some very early adopters, and that's kind of it. So trying to figure out how do we spread beyond that. A skill that I bring, I do some policy work. So if folks are interested, happy to talk about that. Resources. I've done a lot of nonprofit startup stuff in the past, so I can talk about that. And then I also hunt my own food. So if anyone is interested in learning about that or kind of the Southern hunting culture, I'd be happy to discuss probably something different that I bring. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thanks, Melanie. We'll pass to Anna.
Hello? That works? Oh, hey. Hi, everyone. I'm Anna. I'm Scottish and graduated recently. Met Erin at SOCAP. My skill is probably because I just graduated, I've done loads of research. So if you want someone to read loads of information and get the key points out of it quickly, then I could be your girl. My biggest research at the moment probably is my time, because I'm still working out what I want to do with my kind of early career. And my biggest need basically is that I would like to meet like-minded people who are trying to integrate their values with their business or their career. So yeah, my intention is really to meet like-minded people and get inspiration and motivation from that. And then, yeah, to learn the business fundamentals and how to integrate the next economy philosophy with a business, yeah, with businesses. Yeah. Glad to meet you.
Thank you all so much. Did we miss anyone apart from Phoenix? Phoenix, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Do
Okay, good.
you want to just say an intention for?
Sorry, because I usually use this.
Oh, can you mute yourself?
Sorry. No, I was going to be in here for a while, but I didn't know
Can
you
you
were
mute yourself?
Me?
No, it's my mistake. I should have.
Let's see. I can't see who that is.
I think it's Charlotte.
Oh, great. Thanks, Charlotte. Okay. Phoenix, I gave a little introduction, but do you want to say an intention for the course and a skill? I shared some of your skills and resources you bring, but maybe an intention for the course.
Oh, well, my intention would be that we get more empowered to bring this culture and economy to a more evolved space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To benefit all humanity. Yeah.
And what about a need you have?
Need. I think I'm already getting that need met, a need for hope and faith because of all the great projects that people are working on and how that contributes to society. Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Great. So I'll pass it back to Kevin. And just a reminder for folks to mute when you're not speaking. That's really helpful. All right, Kevin.
All right, thanks, Erin. There's a number of people who couldn't make it today, and there's about 3 people who sent me a short little video intro, and I'm going to try one, and if it comes through with the audio, then we'll go ahead and play the other intros. If not, we'll skip that and move on to the content. So let me give this a try. I'm going to share my screen and see if this works for you all. So if you could see the video. Yes, Erin? Yep. See if you can hear it.
Hello everyone, my name is Annie Zhang. I'm sad that I can't make it to the first few sessions of the Next Economy MBA. I'm currently working at a full-time job that I'm transitioning out of. My intention for taking this program is to utilize its structure to go through the process of identifying areas of opportunity within my community around which I could form a business concept. I then wish to practice the planning and milestone implementation necessary to realize that concept. A skill I have. My background is in mechanical engineering, and I've been working these past couple of years in putting together electromechanical systems. I'm also decent at basic graphic design and video editing. A resource that I have, since my undergrad was in mechanical engineering, and I also currently work at Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, I've been able to build up a decent network of quality scientists and engineers. A need. So as I mentioned, I'm currently transitioning out of my full-time job into a semi-planned period of time where I'm focusing on some personal goals. During this time, I'll need the support of a community of people who are similarly embarking on projects with relative risk. I also need a structure for thinking about and carrying out plans towards my goals. I hope to see you all in future sessions, and I look forward to reviewing the recording of today's session.
Okay. And I have a couple more here.
Hi, my name is Annie Abraham. In addition to launching my
Don't really hear the audio on that one, Kevin.
Okay. Okay, I will send out Deanne's video intro. Let's try this one and see if the audio comes through better. And then if not, I'll send these out to the group afterwards.
Hello there. My name is Matt Rose Stark, and recording a little introduction video as I'm going to be at a soil science course for the first 2 sessions. I'm really excited to meet all of you and watch the recordings. So yeah, that's my name. I manage a farm out in Vacaville, California called Be Love Farm, where we raise various animals, a lot of perennials and trees, veggies, you name it. And I love the work. I love living out here. My reason for taking the course is to sort of help to get some direction and guidance to manifest a vision of living and working in community, to care for land and tend land and feed people in a way that's ethical and just in right relationship with the rest of the world.
Okay, I think I'll leave it at that just for honoring everybody's time. And I will send all 3 of those video links to everybody as resources at the end of the training session, if that's okay. Let's stop sharing my screen. Okay, moving on into the kind of the diving right in, we want to start usually by getting shared expectations around our approach to crafting a learning experience. And so I want to talk a little bit about our pedagogical approach to learning. And kind of as you saw, maybe if some of you previewed some of the resources that were sent out, our general approach to learning is that there's probably nothing that we could do as a team at Lyft to convey information such that you learn by just us throwing information at you. Our general understanding of how learning occurs is when you are curious and interested in asking yourselves questions. And so our general approach is to craft an environment where you feel psychologically safe enough to ask yourselves questions that you're curious about. And by self-selecting to be here, we already know, and hearing your intentions, we already see a lot of that curiosity and interest, so that I think we're going to be very successful in having learning occur for many of us or all of us. And in the spirit of kind of keeping that space as free and safe as possible, we really encourage your questions, your feedback. Encourage meaning we're hungry for it. And so as we go along and we're sharing something, the best possible experience is that you have questions or concerns and you put them in the chat or you voice them to the group. Our job as then facilitators of the learning experience is to calibrate your feedback and questions and find out, is it the right time to discuss it now? Is it best for an office hour? Maybe a one-on-one? Maybe there's some resources we could point you to, and just to keep things flowing and on topic with what we've agreed that we're going to, with the syllabus that you've opted into. And that's our job, is to help facilitate that. But our invitation, not obligation, but our invitation to you, we don't want you to feel obligated, but is to ask questions of yourself and of this group. We have, just in the arc of the training, there will be some visual representations and images. We'll have group dialogue. We have video multimedia resources, video, audio, as well as reading that come along with each session. And you'll see that sent out in the agenda, which will be sent at 5 to 7 days before we have a live session. And in that agenda, there will be links to resources. That agenda will change week to week based on your feedback. So after every session, there will be a form that will go out that will be a link to a feedback form. What was good? What could have been better? What didn't get covered? Similarly, there will be an invitation to participate in our office hours that follow this session. Currently, the office hours are scheduled for Friday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time for the first office hour. We are very open to potentially changing that or adapting that time frame, and we'll be sending out a survey. The first office hour will hold this Friday at noon Pacific Standard Time. We'll send out a form for you to precede the office hour with questions, and that was very successful last year, where you participants were able to send in, hey, this is what I'd love to discuss at office hours. It's also true that a lot of the office hour content is extemporaneous, where something is alive in you and you want to bring it up and explore it, and we're there to catch it and explore it with you. And like I think it was Ryan who said, we're learning here too. We have a lot that we'd love to share, a lot that we're excited about on the frontiers of the next economy, and we're totally in learning mode. Aaron, Sean, or anybody want to add anything to our pedagogical approach?
I would like to,
go ahead, Aaron.
I would like to just add, it was mentioned by Rose, but one thing we learned last time was that case studies was really helpful for people in learning. And so we did a turnaround and added more case studies than we even had featured last time. And we'll be highlighting those, and love it when you all bring those as well to help build our collective database of case studies of what's working out there in reinventing an economy and creating one that works for the benefit of all life.
This is Sean. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate the invitation for engagement, right? And just to be really curious, ask a lot of questions, and make it your own course, right? Don't take this as if you're just, well, the Lyft MBA was all right. Like, if it's just okay, we're not doing our job, right? So please give us that feedback and ask us for more and let us be responsive.
One other thing I'll add is that for synthesis and integration of what we explore together in our live sessions and in office hours, last time in the MBA, participants who happened to be regionally near each other found it very valuable to create on-life cohorts, meeting in person and exploring content. Looks very much like we have East Bay or a Bay Area cohort here, for sure, and maybe a Hudson Valley cohort, and we'll have to look at the geography. Again, there's people who are not able to make this session, Colorado, Belize, kind of spread all over the world a little bit. So we'll try and do our best to help coordinate that and support you in creating on-life learning opportunities to explore content further. It's also true that last time we came in with the idea that everybody would want a Facebook group. And so none of us really use Facebook that much, but we thought everybody would. And it turned out nobody really wanted it. So we defaulted this time to not have one, but if there's demand, let us know. We're very happy to create a Facebook group and help facilitate additional interaction through that as well. And I'll send out a survey to that end at the end today. Any questions or stuff coming in from the chat so far?
Nothing on the chat.
Okay.
One thing that I would add really quickly, again, echoing an engagement thing, and a part of that is most of you have your video screens on right now, which is great, so we can all just kind of be virtually in the room together and see each other and be present. Another thing is a little bit of just in conversation with folks in the last cohort, it's maybe like a psychological component to the course that might not be felt right now, but as we go on, there may be feelings, and it's the psychology of being behind. So this course moves really fast, but it's all video recorded. You're always gonna have it. So really just feel like you can kind of come in at any point and stay present and engaged, even if there's some feelings like, oh, I'm behind or something like that. So I just wanted to give permission to stay present with the current material.
Thanks, Andrew. Looks like Rose has a question. List of participants from the location. Yeah, last time Sean created a map. Sean, can you commit to creating a map? Thank you.
Yes, I'll do it.
Written form, love it. Rebecca, is a great request. We do have the video recording. Maybe one of us will transcribe it, but maybe we can make that request as well. It's optional if people want to. We made a map last time, and people put in their bio and maybe listed some of their intention, skills, resources, and needs. Okay. Digging into the first session content, we find that in general, creating both learning experiences and just creating the work that we need to do in collective agreement to create an economy that works for all life, there's usually a need to get some shared language and shared understanding, shared analysis. And where we wanted to start today is even what is the purpose of the economy and what is it for? And we definitely have some ideas about that. I'm wondering if anybody, previewed any of the resources we shared or has any comments about what does LIFT mean when we talk about economy? I'll maybe take one or two comments and then I'd love to share where we start with. Maybe I'll start with something and then see if there's a reaction. When we think about economy, we generally aren't talking about the stock market, corporations, business, dollars and cents. When we talk about the economy, we generally mean the collective set of strategies that humans use to meet our needs. And that's a really broad framing for the economy, but we think going to first principles and stepping back without being trapped by the cultural normal associations with how economy has shown up gives us a lot of freedom to then start to design alternatives from a free space. So what are the ways in which we meet our needs for sustenance, for shelter, for community and connection? For safety and security. There's lots of needs that we have, and we have a whole diverse set of strategies all over the world. And those collective set of strategies, we generally, our framing is that's the economy. So what would an economy be? The system of ways in which the system of strategies for meeting our needs, what would that look like if it was working for the benefit of all life? That's the core provocation behind Lift Economy's work. Does anybody have any additional commentary or questions about that stepping back kind of principle-based framing?
I'll offer a comment. I've seen an image of a related concept that describes the economy as an iceberg, and the market economy is like the tip of the iceberg. And under that is this whole range of ways that economic activity are enacted, like in the street, in families, in households, out in the black market, like all these different ways people are transacting things. So that metaphor, or another one I like, is that the market economy is like an application on the greater economy, which is the operating system of like the web of human relationships.
Thanks, Faith.
This is Jay. Yeah, I would love to add that I really appreciate that broad definition. To me, it feels really clarifying as someone who's been quite interested in new economics or political economy and how do we define that. And it does tend to get mired in sort of like this other frameworks that have already existed. And so I really appreciate your framing to kind of free it of that and think of it in the broader context and outside of our cultural framework. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Jay. Lift team, anybody want to add anything before we go on to the next piece? Okay, the next piece. This is a tough one, maybe the hardest thing we're going to do together. I'm going to invite you into a space of, if we take that first principled approach to an economy, this collective set of strategies to meet human needs, what would it look like, the vision, what would the economy look like
if it were working for the benefit of all life? What would we see? What kinds of things would we see happening? I don't know why my
your
voice got
microphone did the
It's
Barry
like
White. Yeah, I was wondering about that too.
Whoa. I think it's that self-adjusting microphone problem. I'll try and fix that.
I love it because it sounds good.
Whoa.
I'm ready for an R&B track.
Exactly.
So, let's see. It's the dramatic provocation here. I'm going to invite you, just even in silence right now, to envision that economy that works for the benefit of all life. What would you see? What would it look like? What would be happening? What wouldn't be happening? And maybe just take a minute and actually picture it. I'll add maybe a couple of more pieces to it. Boy, this is going to be distracting, huh? With the I see people snickering. I'll work on my mic in a second. What would look like for people meeting their need for food? What about water? What about shelter? Textiles, garments, comfort, housing, community connection. What would these things look like? What would we see? Take a minute. I'm going to fix my mic. Aaron, can you help watch the clock?
Why I said it might be one of the more challenging exercises is, in our experience, sometimes people have deep-seated limiting beliefs about things like human nature, or those limiting beliefs or belief systems, which we generally refer to as BS for short. Those belief systems can sometimes, a friend of mine calls it butthead thinking. It's like, yeah, somebody says, okay, if the economy were working, everybody would have food, adequate food. Nobody would be hungry. Yeah, but the buts that come into our head, the limitations on is it really possible? Is there enough? And so it's a really difficult exercise for a lot of people to actually envision what the economy could look like. Standing from where we are today, where tragically, 800 million people will go hungry today or malnourished. 900 million people will have an inadequate water supply or sanitation. Just the terrific, terrible conditions of life for an enormity of suffering. It's very difficult for people to envision that economy that works. But I'm curious to hear from you, what comes up for you when you envision that economy that works? What would you see? What are some of the things that you see?
Do I just unmute myself if I want to talk, or do I go like this? Okay. Yeah, either. Well, for me, what stems from it all is a primary shift in our perceived needs. So, and like the way that we perceive our needs. And then if we start perceiving our needs as integrated with the health of the earth, if we see the health of the earth as like one with our needs and as a like essential human need, and then that can precipitate a shift. And I guess what I see is like the physical and emotional manifestation is that a place where people feel and act a lot more peaceful. And what comes out of that is a lot more I see an economy based on cooperation, on working together, because the basic understanding and belief and widely held belief would be that our fate is tied up in each other's and in the environment's. Yeah.
I love that. So both developing a shared definition of need and looking at kind of the expression of communitarian values or cooperation being core to what you're seeing in that economy that works for everyone. What else? One or two other comments would be really helpful. David? And then Melissa?
Well, and I think what was just shared just kind of feeds into the sense of shared value creation. Right now, we have a lot of centralized systems that are driving a lot of inequality, and I think centralized systems also are driving unsustainability in other ways. So if we can enable shared value and then just more distributed, production, so we don't have that centralization, I think that to me would kind of characterize it.
Thanks, David. So this shift to shared value creation, shared value. Melissa?
I wanted to build off of what Rose said, and then the first thing that came up for me was a lack of fear, and not this sense of scarcity. The economy right now creates a lot of fear, both real and imagined, for a lot of people. And when I imagine this new economy, I would know that my children and all future generations would have what they need. And I think tied into that is a sort of more indigenous world view, where there's a subjectivity to all life. And I think that that's a key piece of that puzzle.
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, I think they're surfacing. Oftentimes when we do this exercise, we surface some of the barriers that show up, like fear, and then the shifts to a more connected sense of the world, where what in the business as usual economy looks and is spoken about as resources maybe becomes relatives or connected. This indigenous worldview will come up a lot. And I see Melanie is sharing the donut economy image, which is another helpful way of thinking about it. Phoenix, I'm wondering, the discussion we were having the other day about some of the limiting beliefs that kind of come up in this exercise. I'm wondering if you want to share any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think this is so important because it shapes our actions. So I think this system, there's economic pressure, and so you're pushed. Many people feel that push. And then even if you're lucky and you have economic means where you're not feeling the oppressive system, because so many people around you are feeling it, it can affect the culture and limit your beliefs. Like we have, for example, in New York City, enough empty vacancies where we could have every homeless person have a home. And then there's food that we throw away all the time. There was even a movie made about the waste that we have. Yet, because of how the economic system is set up and our belief system, we're, as a culture, definitely I think the people on this call are different, but we're not shifting those things. And in the work that you're doing, you want to work differently, and you might butt up against all the beliefs that you've soaked in. Like, how many times are you going to work late because you have this idea of independence that you've soaked up from society and not ask for help? Or how many times are you going to go into a room where you're promoting something and have a feeling of, oh, I have to convince them and be very alpha somehow in order to do it. So there's all these small and big ways that it shows up. And And maybe one thing that everyone in this room has in common is that you've overcome at least one hurdle, because you're all doing things that are amazing and have hopes to do things that will change the culture. So anyway, so that's some of the thoughts that I have. Wondering how that resonates.
That's wonderful. I really appreciate that, Phoenix, and the cultural, kind of this cultural normality and pushing against culture. That's what in this training we're going to explore through case study, through skill building, through our own curiosity and co-learning together. Our core provocation one of our core provocations at Lyft is that we can meet our needs: food, water, shelter, loving relationships, connection, all our sustenance, all our material needs and immaterial needs, in ways that actually enhance, restore, and regenerate the world around us without compromise. And that, as our North Star, it turns out that if you use that as a vector of inquiry, you'll find there are ways to grow food that enhance soil fertility. There are ways not deplete it, not sustain it, but actually enhance it. There are ways to meet our need for water that actually restore the health of watersheds. There are ways for us to meet our need for shelter and housing that are beneficial to biodiversity and equitable for everybody. All those things are possible, but just not common. And so we're going to be doing some uncommon exploration together. And so want to dip into, like, well, if that is true, if our provocative claims are true or possible, why isn't it the case?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's wrong? And so I want to just take a moment to explore what's broken about the economy, and how we know it's broken. And I'll say one or two things that we could all on this call spend years studying it. Double PhD. Somebody mentioned David Graeber's book earlier. There's a lot we could explore, and we're not going to do that on this call. I don't think. And so, but there's some very core patterns or repeating themes that are very important and not often acknowledged popularly in a critical assessment of economy or culture. And I'll mention one or two, and then Phoenix, I'm wondering if, again, from our conversation the other day, if you could share some as well. One that I think is important is that this notion of scarcity, which has been brought up today, it's kind of designed into the way the core structures, so not just the culture of, but the structures of the business as usual economy. The way that money is created as debt, or importantly as interest-bearing debt, and that's the most popular way money is created globally. Different economies do it a little bit differently, but money is created as interest-bearing debt. This is extraordinarily problematic as a design structure, because the interest, the more, has to come from somewhere. And where it's coming from is the fish in the sea, the trees in the forest, our human relationships. It's being extracted. And so the economy basically has a structural mandate for exploitation. There's cultural stuff on top of that that makes it really confusing, and can be easy to conflate these things. But there's structurally, it's broken. And at Lyft Economy, we'll see in the next session, we generally see it so broken that it literally has to die or be transformed or composted. The business as usual economy is structurally unfit to create that vision that we just explored together in our minds, in our imagination of an economy that works for the benefit of all life. And that's a really powerful idea. So scarcity, this not enoughness, is built in. Whew.
Kevin, there's a question coming up about that. David's asking, does that come about through how loans work and other interest rates, that interest-bearing debt?
Yeah, and essentially it's in the money creation system, and the way that in a central currency system, the way that, I just want to make sure we're clear, there is a polyculture of currencies out there that exist, and lots of opportunities, and on the solution space, we're going to explore it. On the problem statement, the money that's normal, that's exchanged normally, the way it's created is as debt. You know, even the hemp paper tickets with old dead white people on them that we use to trade around are debt. They're debt notes, but they're created with interest attached to them. And most money is created in the process of being lent out from the banking system, as Andrew points out. But it's coming with interest, and that interest has to come from somewhere. That might seem like an abstract concept, but it actually plays through in so much of the exploitation you see. So much of what becomes normal in the economy is linked to this idea that there has to be more created, and that's a structural flaw. That's a big, big problem, and we'll definitely go into that. But there's cultural problems too, not just structural problems. And Phoenix, I'm wondering if you could build on some of the cultural artifacts that we see that are extraordinarily problematic with the business as usual economy around scarcity. And
well, one is that how it's based on scarcity is already an issue, but what it starts to create is that people have to produce more. Even if you're in a nonprofit, there's this push to how do I build efficiency? How do I make the most out of the dollar? I think I want to, instead of talking about what's wrong, because sometimes what's wrong is just taken for granted, I want to kind of jump and talk about what's working and then kind of go back to what's wrong. For example, I think one of the things that frames this economy is how we is that it's a punitive situation. So like, and there's an idea of deserve because it's based on scarcity. If you don't, then how do you decide who gets it and who doesn't? And sometimes it becomes like, oh, well, if you're rich, if you're successful, if you're already that, then that's kind of proof that you deserve more of it, or so on. And actually, systems that are non-competitive bring out the most in people, the best in people. People show up to contribute because they're not being like, for example, if you think of the bell curve, someone has to do badly in order for you to be better than they are, so that you can get the better grade. So that sends a message to you that not everyone can be at the table. And you know, and then if someone does badly, then they deserve to be, you know, there's not an it's often that there's not an idea that people change. Actually, people do change, and there's things like restorative justice, and there's definitely programs that decrease the incidence of people, repeat offenders, and this shows up in work too, because people make mistakes. That's very natural. But when you have a culture where you think that I have to be efficient and I have to be perfect because there's 10 people behind me who could do the same job, that creates an anxiety that you bring to your interactions with others, and other people are bringing that to you. So, while even though I'm talking about something like restorative justice practices, which is about non-punitive ways of handling crime and harming other people, it's not just about crime. It's also about how, you know, you're a partnership with someone and they're late to meetings, and how do you handle that? How do you approach that conversation? Can you overcome it and turn that conflict into an opportunity for greater depth and trust? Because you know, yeah, handling people is so important to business. And well, I said a lot there, so I'm going to pause and see if there's any comments. Yeah.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Phoenix, because in this training, in the pre-course survey, it was really interesting to see people rank what they're most interested in. And there's, I think when we did this last time, I think people were surprised at how much of value they got from actually just developing more skills in how to communicate it with people in ways that are connective and restorative, and how that is one of the keys to creating that vision that Melissa and others were just talking about, this vision for the economy that works, this that David was mentioning, the shared value creation. Actually, how we communicate and connect and restore is central to our ability to create the structures, to actually do the work.
Yeah, yeah. And to give you an example, when I was trying to do a cooperative housing situation, and I had a bunch of people. We were trying to do something around buying this property and changing it to land. What's it called? Land ownership. Like, anyway, we were trying to take it from a capitalist system into a land trust, and we had a bunch of people from different communities there, and what we did is we each told a story about why we were interested in this, and that's something that isn't a traditional thing to do, you know, in a business kind of way, but that did a lot to create trust, and there were connections that were made in that room because people got to share from an emotional, life connected place. And I'm just lucky that I've been in enough of those circles, and I had other people in the circle who were available to do that. But yeah, you know, like, so much of doing this business, especially doing business that's not the usual way, is going to be about how do you connect to other people, how do you inspire them, how do you create partnerships, create connections, create trust, get past, you know. And if your mindset is the traditional mainstream, like everything has to be transactional, then you're losing some of the creativity and connection that could be had.
So I want you all to prepare to be surprised in this training as to how much we're going to refer back to this idea that, whereas I want you all to know like the latest structures and statutes, and let's transform the way currency works, and let's create these novel principle-based regenerative enterprises and meet everybody's needs. A lot of it's going to come down to the way we connect with other people. And I will share about like, what is non-extractive capital? Where is it? How do we get it? How do you fundraise? And a lot of that is going to come down to how do you connect with people. So there's going to be a lot of skill building, I think, and sharing from our personal experience and personal growth and development throughout this training, which I'm really excited about. I want to invite in a couple other voices, either from LIFT team members or maybe one or two participants before I share one of the extra fun assignments from this first session and how it will be used.
Hello? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
Anna.
Yeah, one thing that just came to mind in the previous question, like what should the next economy look like? I feel like people are going to have to move slower and go about doing their daily lives that little bit slower. Like if that's kind of remembering to take your I don't know, like your more durable plastic bag with you, or take your Tupperware with you, or whatever. And I think that's going to be a really big challenge in kind of scaling this, because we've got into the habit of leading our lives in such a hurry. And yeah, so I think that's probably kind of an answer to like, why isn't this the case? Like, why isn't the economy the way that we would like it to be? And I think undoing that habit and that impatience is going to be really difficult. Yeah, but I throw that out there.
I support your observation, Anna. This in the some of the next economy groups, you'll hear about slow money and slow food, and I've heard about slow fashion and slow housing, and there's this recognition that our habits, behaviors, and norms around convenience and fast and everything must happen now is toxic. And what I'd encourage us to look at as we go along is there's going to be things that fall into the category of our personal habits, behaviors, and norms as individuals, and which we can model for our families and our communities and our neighborhoods, and that we can share. And then there's structurally imposed constraints which seem to motivate a lot of this perverse behavior that is exploitative to nature and to other people. And there's structures and systems, and assessing and understanding those and dismantling those are also going to be part of it. And it's probably a both and rather than an either or. Sometimes we get stuck in like, it's all my fault or it's all my actions and I have to undo my behaviors. And sometimes it's like, no, we have to tear down the systems. And I would say, yes, both. And we'll learn how to do both at the same time.
Hey, Kevin, I'd love to jump in and introduce the extra fun opportunity for this session. So, but yeah, I just want to say thanks everybody for the engagement and lots of good questions and resources. I'm learning a ton already from the resources. I have a bunch of things to actually read through after the session. So I love that about this shared learning journey. You're all bringing a lot of value to it. So what the offer for extra fun and just to reiterate from the beginning, the pedagogy, that they aren't specifically assignments, right? You're not required to do this. You won't be graded on it. You won't be harassed or hounded if you did it or not. It's really hopefully inspired, something that you're interested to do. You want to have more fun with this topic. And here's an invitation, okay? So the extra fun invitation for this session is to share 3 examples of existing or previous companies that are inspiring to you. The name of them, a web link if you have it, and what is it about them that's inspiring. And then what we'll do, we'll send this form. I have the link here. I'll put it in the chat. It's also on the agenda, and we'll also send it out. And we'll see these. We'll read through them all, and then at the beginning of the next session, we'll invite a few people to share some of their examples that are interesting. Yep. So does that make sense? Any questions about the extra fun invitation?
Maybe Sean will just add is, think of the most inspiring examples. It's a question we used to ask as like our, I guess, cocktail hour kind of like question. Like Sean and I would say, well, what's the top 3 or 1 organizations that you're most inspired by in the world that you think are modeling the best possible embodiment of what the next economy could be, of how you want to see the world, and being thoughtful about that. This idea of reference points and modeling becomes, in our experience, a great launching point for both critique and then for regional replication and adaptation. And just, there's a lot of prior art. There's a lot of people doing great work. And so being thoughtful about who are they? What are they doing? Why is it that I admire them?
I think piggybacking off of a point that Anna brought up as well in terms of what are the cultural shifts necessary, we often find ourselves in a culture that prioritizes and acknowledges the innovator, the hero mentality. And so this exercise really gets us into the place of kind of servant mentality, what already exists that I can actively support and resource and grow. Because the things that are needed to shift into this next economy aren't often the ones with the biggest bells and whistles getting the most investment capital, but are often the ones that are a little bit more humble and possibly less visible, as we'll talk about in our next session.
Just a quick comment on the form. Ojan, thanks, is pointing out that it's asking for an email address. We're not publishing this, so I think it's okay. Just, if you don't mind putting in your email address and then answering the questions. And if somebody has I guess an exception to that, we can make the forms anonymous. And I think all the feedback forms are anonymous. Yeah, it's not the only question. You go to the next page.
All right, we're about at the hour, but like Aaron said, if you want to stay on for a bit, since this is the first session, if anybody has any questions or comments about kind of the arc of the training or anything on this latest discussion, happy to stay on, as this was a chance to get to know each other. The next session will kind of kick off with kind of diving right into the content with less preamble.
And Charlotte did ask, I think it was Charlotte that asked the question about saving the chat log. We will save the chat log, and that'll be included in the Google Drive with access to the video, the link to the video on YouTube, a private video. And so honoring it, many people might need to leave, but for those of you that want to stay on and continue kind of what Phoenix and Kevin were queuing up, I would love to keep hearing thoughts and have a few thoughts to share as well. Melissa's asking, curious how much mindfulness meditation is officially part of the curriculum, if at all.
Phoenix.
I do a lot of mindfulness and a big believer in retreat and practice. I can totally bring that on if there's a request. I think it's so important in this work that people have a way of managing their emotions and being able to really get inner clarity with themselves, because it's challenging doing anything. Even if you were just deciding to do lead a very simple life, life doesn't stay simple. And then, doing something that's a little bit outside of the norm, you're going to get pushback sometimes. So I believe that mindfulness is one of the ways, not necessarily the only way, where you can help transform negative emotions, help you connect to your deepest needs, which can help kind of help you get through the confusion of different things going on. And so that you have more capacity to be there, be present for other people, and be able to connect more authentically. So I'm a big believer in it.
I like the question, Melissa, because the curriculum per se has a mention of mindfulness as part of what we call personal growth and development, as one of the ideas of culture, a principle of designing next economy organizations. And I love the question because we absolutely could go deeper around practices, shared experiences, and that would be a great, if you want to, an example would be if you wanted to voice that you would love to see more of that in the curriculum, then we can adjust the curriculum accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I can mention part of the curriculum specifically around culture is cultural investments. And we see mindfulness as a very common cultural investment. In fact, the LIFT team, when we start our meetings, we start with a mindful moment. And we often do that with client companies as they're interested, of course. So it's definitely very, very related and relevant skill set. So thanks for asking.
Mm-hmm.
Anna's got a great question in the there was one question in the chat from Jay. We will be sharing the chat. The chat log will be posted separate to the video, so you can open up both. And then Anna has this question about, do we have a firm idea already of the next economy and what it looks like? The way I would respond is that we probably we have some intentions of what the outcomes of that economy would be. Everybody has adequate food who needs it. Everybody has adequate water. Everybody has shelter when they want it. Everybody has comfort as they need it and has access to loving relationships and community. Those types of outcomes are important. Our vision for what the next economy looks like, we have lots of ideas. We know they're wrong. It's emergent, so we're inspired by what's actually happening. And I don't know that anybody knows what it will look like in the long run into the future. So we're highly confident that we're wrong, and we have some convictions about what we'd love to see, and commitments to trying to grow what we think is working as far as we can tell. And we're here to share a lot of those things, but we're definitely sure we're wrong.
I'd like to just add that I have become much more comfortable after, say, 6 or 7 years of doing this work, of noticing what I don't think is included in the next economy. So a discernment around when I see examples that aren't it, that's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer. And for example, one thing that I'm learning is there are a lot of entities or organizations that kind of on paper or on script feel like they're embodying a lot of values, but if they're all white men, that to me feels like a misstep, really weaving in that diverse perspective. There was a sign at a climate march that I went to recently, and I'm not sure, I don't remember the exact wording, but something like, we're gonna need all perspectives to get out of this mess. And so that's one of the checks or discernments that I've learned more and more. The more I look for perspectives that are, or examples that have a diversity of perspectives baked into those who are actually building the entity or organization, not just employed by, but actually in decision-making power. That's one of the things. So maybe one helpful thing is to just start building our kind of internal checklist of what it doesn't look like is another way to look at it.
Yeah, to follow up on that, we talk in Lyft about cognitive abrasion, and it's this concept. The research is showing how the more diverse a group is, the more creative they are. They've done many tests where they put different groups, and that's one of the things that's correlated is creativity and diversity of all kinds, gender, ethnicity, regional. And the reason is that when you have to, even when you have to explain yourself to someone who's different from you, you put extra energy into it. So that creates more inner clarity and more, whereas if you're around people who have the same ideas with you, you kind of don't put as much work. So that's one place where it is. The other is that people are question. Because they come from a different perspective, they'll say, well, they'll look at things from a different way, and then you'll hit against each other. That's the abrasion. You kind of like scratch at each other. But then if that isn't stifled, what happens is that because of that interaction, you get a more creative answer. And this is where mindfulness and emotional intelligence and collaborative becomes really important, because if you repress it, you lose all of the gifts of that. But if you're able to have really rich conversations and take it, and use it, and then that can forward you to a new place. And considering, you know, that America and North America is one of the more diverse places on the earth, I think we're not taking advantage of that as much as we could. So, yeah.
There was, excuse me, just to add another thought into the mix. There's kind of this idea of the economy as, there's this idea in systems thinking called emergence. And it's sort of like all of the little pieces, all of us together aggregating into this emergent collective that's constantly evolving. And I guess for me right now, I'm really sitting with, you know, these two ideas. And one is that I see as, I kind of typed something in the chat earlier about this idea of homo economicus that is often taught in economics classes, that is like a self-interested individual that, you know, makes decisions based on scarcity and and I guess within that person, there's two, I guess, competencies that I see really missing. And one is like understanding our connection and just interconnected thinking in general, right? And seeing the connections between one another. And then the other side of that, as was mentioned, is emotional intelligence, which again is really interrelated with like mindfulness is kind of a whole internal ecosystem. And I'm pasting this link in the chat. It's did that? Oh no, I think I did that privately. Sorry. There we go. I think there's. I guess I want to encourage us as we think about the broader systems out there. Like, what is the next economy on the inside? What does that emotional intelligence look like? How does that manifest in our institutions of, say, higher education that's bifurcated across schools of disciplines, many that contradict one another? How does that look in our families? There's kind of this idea we're in like an emotional dark age. We don't really learn skills of emotional intelligence, kind of similar to how there used to be, you know, people would view physical reinforcement of things like spanking and other, like beating your kids. You know, we don't really generally view that as the healthiest now. And similarly, we don't learn or are taught these emotional skills. So I guess like when I think of the next economy, I think of people in society and institutions that embody these skills. Like, and I think that really helps for me to ground it into like personal, like what can I cultivate within myself? What can I support others in cultivating those skills? So I just want to, there's like a dirty secret, I think, with a lot of people with wealth. It's like, they're often not happy. They're often miserable. They're often, it's like, if you have a fabric, a landscape of fulfilling meaningful relationships with other people, with the land, et cetera, in life, there's no need, there's no hunger. There is that sense of enoughness arises. So I think I'm really sitting with that question right now of how to bring that about more. And that's really like live and fresh for me. So I'd be really excited to chat with any of you about it at some point.
Thanks, Phoenix.
Thank you all, and thanks for sharing some extra time with us to continue and not close so abruptly. So really looking forward to taking some time and looking over the examples that you think of and that you're coming up with. Really, really grateful for any of that energy that you have towards that extra fun assignment. And please get in touch with any of the LIFT partners if you have any questions. All of our emails are just our first name at lifteconomy.com. And really looking forward to seeing you at office hours on Friday, those of you that can make it.
So thanks everybody.
Thanks, everybody.